Carbon monoxide can be used as a good reducing agent for the reduction of the copper. Some silica is added, the blast of hot air will be blown into the converter and the blast air will convert the CuS partially into CO, 1673 Kelvin. So around these two temperature, you can use this element as a reducing agent for the zinc. Hello my dear students, a warm welcome you all. Myself is Purnima, lecturer in Department of Chemistry at Vidhyashram Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. My dear students, in our last discussion, we were dealing with the unit called General Principles and Process of Isolation of Elements. Under that, we studied about the Illingham diagram. We have understood the silent features of Illingham diagram, and also we understand the uses of Illingham diagram, and by using Illingham diagram we can easily decide the reducing agent which we used in the metallurgy. Is it right? So at the last one, after doing the conversion of a concentrated ore into oxide form, we need to reduce that oxide forms of the metal into pure form of the metal. For that, we need a good reducing agent that can be easily decided by using Illingham diagram. In addition to that, we also learned that how the iron is extracted from their oxides, and also we learned that how many different steps which are involved in the metallurgy of the iron, that is the zone of combustion, then slag formation and the zone of reduction. Today let us move on to the next topic of this unit about the principle of extraction of the copper from its copper pyrite ore, and also we are going to learn that how does we extract the copper metal from the copper ore, and also we are going to understand the application of Illingham diagram, especially in the extraction of the zinc from the zinc oxide, and also we are going to understand how they will do the extraction of the zinc from the zinc oxide. So firstly I will go for the principle of extraction of the copper from the cuprous oxide. So we all already know that we used to decide the reducing agent by using Illingham diagram. Here also I have plotted the delta G naught versus a temperature. We have got the graph like this, and from this Illingham diagram, the copper which is get reduced into a copper oxide, whereas carbon get oxidized to carbon monoxide, and a carbon which is get oxidized to carbon dioxide, which is shown below. Here you can see that at a temperature between minus delta G naught around between 500 to 600, you can see that there is a graph for carbon monoxide where it is react with the oxygen and get converted into carbon dioxide. And next to this, between minus 300 to minus 400, you can see that there is another graph for the copper which is reacting with oxygen and get reduced to a copper oxide. Similarly, the graph between 200 to 300, you can see some another one line which is indicating that the coke which is reacting with oxygen and forming carbon monoxide. From this graph, the delta G naught versus temperature for the formation of the oxide, the copper which is get oxidized to copper oxide, the line which is almost in the top. You can see that this line which is almost in the top when compared to the carbon monoxide as well as with the carbon dioxide. The line for the carbon to carbon monoxide and carbon to carbon dioxide, you can see that this is a line for carbon which is reacting with oxygen and forming carbon monoxide, and this is a line where carbon monoxide which is further reacted with oxygen and forming carbon dioxide. From these two lines, we can easily determine that the carbon monoxide can be used as a good reducing agent for the reduction of the copper. So for the copper, we can use the carbon monoxide as a very good reducing agent. So the carbon monoxide which is further get oxidized to carbon dioxide are at almost in the similar position, lower position in the graph, and particularly around 500 to 600 Kelvin. So it is quite easy to reduce a copper oxide into copper by using both the carbon and carbon monoxide. Here we can use a carbon as well as the carbon monoxide, where this carbon monoxide which is further oxidized to give a carbon dioxide. Is it right? So first one is a coke and another one is carbon monoxide. Both can be used to reduce the copper into copper oxide. This is how we can easily define the reducing agent by understanding the Illingham diagram. Once again, I will explain you. Here we are understanding which reducing agent can be used for the reduction of copper oxide into copper. Copper oxide into copper. Which reducing agent we must use? We are understanding. Is it right? That is why I have plotted the delta G naught versus temperature, and I have got the three different line. The first line is around 500, minus 500. So we got the graph for the carbon monoxide which is further oxidizing with oxygen and give rise to the carbon dioxide. Similarly, we got another line for the copper where it reacts with the oxygen and get converted into copper oxide. And there is another line which is found below when compared these two lines, where the coke which is reacting with oxygen and get converted into carbon monoxide. So from these three lines, we can easily tell that these two lines which is found below when compared to the first one. Is it right? Because it is present on the top of the diagram, where the copper which is reacting with oxygen and forming a copper oxide. But these two lines which is found below in this graph, so both can be used at the temperature around 500 to 600 Kelvin. At the temperature around 500 to 600 Kelvin, at that range, we can easily use this both the elements, that is a copper, that is a carbon monoxide, as well as the coke, the carbon monoxide and the coke. Both the metals or both the elements can be used as a reducing agent to reduce the copper oxide into copper. This is how we can easily define it by using the Illingham diagram. Hope you all understood with this diagram. Next, we will see how they will do the extraction of the copper from the copper pyrite ore. The large amount of the copper which is obtained from the copper pyrite ore by smelting, and the following steps will be followed. So first they will take the ore of the copper. Here we have taken the copper pyrite which is the ore of copper. Okay, which is the first step? The first step is a concentration. Here the concentration of the ore which is done by froth flotation process. Here they will do the froth flotation process to eliminate the impurities which is present along with our ore. So that is why they are following the froth flotation process, so that you will get the concentrated ore. In the next step, they will do the roasting. Why they are roasting here? Because our copper, our entire ore which consists of sulfide, copper sulfide. That is why we are doing the roasting. So in our previous class, we have understood that the roasting will be done for the ore which consists of the sulfide. In addition to the oxide, it may consist of the sulfide. So that is why we are doing the roasting. So here the concentrated ore will be roasted in a reverberatory furnace in the presence of excess amount of air. So in presence of excess amount of the air, concentrated ore will be heated in the reverberatory furnace, and this process is said to be roasting. Remember, the first step is a concentration of the ore, where the ore which is done with the froth flotation to eliminate the impurities. Once you eliminate the impurities, you will get the concentrated ore. In the second step, we have to heat that ore in presence or absence of the oxygen. Here we are following the roasting because our ore itself which consists of the sulfide content, that is why we are doing the roasting, so that the concentrated ore will be heated in presence of excess amount of air. So the sulfur will be get oxidized to sulfur dioxide, and impurities of the arsenic and antimony, which is also get removed as a volatile oxide. So while doing the heating, the sulfur which is present in the copper, which is get released in the form of sulfur dioxide gas, and the impurities such as antimony and arsenic, it will be get volatile. It get evaporate very easily. Let us see the reaction, how does it takes place when you do the heating. When our copper iron sulfide, which is heated in excess amount of the air, what will happen? The copper sulfate will be formed along with the release of 2 FeS, and sulfur dioxide will be released. The copper sulfide and the ferrous sulfide, which is further oxidized into the oxide. So once we got the copper sulfide and the ferrous sulfide, which is further get oxidized with the oxygen, so that the copper sulfide react with the oxygen and get converted into copper oxide with the release of sulfur dioxide. Similarly, the ferrous sulfate, which is get oxidized in presence of oxygen and give rise to the FeO, that is iron oxide, along with the release of sulfur dioxide. This is how we can easily do the roasting of the copper pyrite ore by using excess amount of air. Just understand, in the roasting technique, we are heating the concentrated ore in presence of excess amount of air. We already learned that this roasting will be followed, that is mainly because our ore itself, which will be consists of sulfide. That is why we are doing the roasting. So once you do the roasting, the sulfide content which is present in our ore, which is get oxidized to or converted into sulfur dioxide, and remaining impurities will be get volatile. So when you heat the copper pyrite ore in presence of excess amount of air, it get converted into copper sulfate and a ferrous sulfate. This copper sulfate and a ferrous sulfate, which is further oxidized with oxygen by heating in presence of excess amount of oxygen, so it get converted into copper oxide and a iron oxide. This is a step that you need to be remember while doing the roasting. After doing the roasting, we followed for the smelting process, where the roasted ore, which is mixed with the silica as a flux, and the mixture is heated in the reverberatory furnace by the blast of hot air, and most of the FeO will be removed as a slag. So once you roasted the air, we got the copper oxide and iron oxide will be obtained. This a copper oxide ore, which is again passed to the blast furnace, and again it will be allowed to mixed with the air. The blast air will be blasted in the reverberatory furnace, and also they have added the flux as a silica, that is SiO2, which is nothing but a sand itself. Okay, they added the sand as a flux and they have passed the blast air. So what will happen? This FeO will be removed as a slag. Is it right? The FeO is nothing but iron oxide will be removed as a slag, and the copper, which is produced in the form of copper matte and a molten mixture of copper sulfate and iron sulfate, which is known as copper matte. So here, after doing the smelting, we obtain the copper in the form of mixtures. What is that mixture we call that? It is a mixture of copper sulfate along with the iron sulfate. The mixture of copper sulfate and the iron sulfate, which is known as a copper matte, and it is get collected in the hearth of the furnace, and FeSiO3 will be floats over the molten mats of the copper. This is how smelting will be done after doing the roasting. Remember, in the smelting process, they will consider the copper oxide, that is a roasted ore, they will put it in the top of the furnace in the large reverberatory furnace. At the below, they will blast the hot air, and also they will add the flux. Here they have added the silica, which is nothing but a sand. What will happen at the last? The zone of reduction and the zone of combustion will be taking place. At lastly, you will get the copper, and that copper itself will be consists of copper sulfate along with the iron sulfate. That mixture we together called as a copper matte, and later this it will be collected in the lower surface of the furnace, and later it will be molten and it will be floats over the copper matte. And where the iron oxide which is react with the silicon dioxide and form FeSiO3, that is iron silicate will be formed. Similarly, the copper oxide which is a mixture of copper oxide and of FeS which is reacted with copper sulfate and FeO will be formed. The molten matte which will be consists of copper sulfate and FeS which is transferred to the Bismuth converter. So, some silica is added, the blast of hot air will be blown into the converter and the blast air will convert the CuS partially into CO which reacts with remaining CuS and give the molten copper. This is how the further the copper oxide which is react with the remaining FeS and get converted into copper sulfate and FeO will be formed. This copper sulfate which is upon further treatment with the blast air which will be get converted into copper oxide and remaining SO2 gas will be released. Similarly, this a copper oxide which is upon further treatment with the copper sulfate which is remaining in the ore itself which reduces the copper oxide into copper and sulfur will be reacted to form a sulfur dioxide. This is how the entire reactions will be formed, especially in the smelting process where the copper oxide is completely reduced into copper. When air is oxidizes, the traces of FeS which is present in FeO which combine with the silica and forming a slag. So, we all know that FeS which is also present in the copper matte which is further oxidized with the oxygen which forms a FeO which is further react with the flux, that is nothing but a sand, that is SiO2 which forms a FeSiO3. The copper which is obtained is known as blister copper because the copper is obtained as a blister appearance due to the evolution of SO2 gas. So, once the copper which is obtained from this process, it will be forms a blister like a spot it will be formed because of the evolution of sulfur dioxide gas. Hence, this is known as a copper blister. This is how they'll extract the copper by using copper pyrite ore. I'll just glance once again. So, first they'll take the ore of the copper, that is nothing but a copper pyrite ore will be considered. Here first they'll do the concentration by using froth rotation technique. In the second step, that is in the roasting, they'll take that concentrated ore and they'll heat in presence of excess amount of air. When you heat the copper pyrite ore in excess amount of air, what will happen? It get oxidized to form a copper sulfate along with the copper sulfate and iron sulfate will be formed. This copper sulfate and iron sulfate which is further oxidizes to give copper oxide and iron oxide respectively with the release of sulfur dioxide as I have explained. In the third step, they'll do the smelting simply by passing the roasted ore to the reverberator furnace and they'll allow the blast air to pass inside it and also they'll add the flux in the form of silicon dioxide which is nothing but a sand. So, as a result of this, what will happen? The copper matte will be produced. That copper matte itself will be consists of, it is a mixture of copper sulfate along with iron sulfate and this is known as copper matte. So, it get collected in the hearth of the furnace and FeSiO3 will be floats over the molten mattes of the copper so that FeO reacts with the silicon dioxide which forms a FeSiO3. Similarly, the CuO which is remaining react with the FeS and forms a CuS, that is copper sulfate along with the release of FeO. So, the molten matte which is again transferred into Bessemer converter which is a converter that used to, it is a pear-shaped vessel lined with the MgO and silicon dioxide. So, they will transfer this molten matte of the copper into the Bismuth converter, what will happen? Some of the silica will be added, the blast air which is again blown over it. As a result of this, the copper sulfate as we obtain, which is get oxidized to copper, and remaining copper oxide which is react with the copper sulfate and again get reduced to copper only. This is how the two step will be followed in the smelting process. After obtaining the copper matte, again they will pass that molten copper into the Bismuth converter simply by doing the oxidation once again. As a result of this, copper sulfate will be get oxidized to copper oxide and again that copper oxide will be get reduced into copper. Hope you all understood with this technique. Next, at the last, whatever the copper which we obtain, that will be in the form of blisters which forms like a spots and hence it is known as a blister copper, and that will be released along with the sulfur dioxide. This is how the extraction will be done for the copper from the copper pyrite ore. Next, we'll understand the application of Illingham diagram for the extraction of the zinc from the zinc oxide. So, in the graph, the delta G naught versus temperature for the formation of the zinc oxide, where the zinc oxide line, which is almost at the top, at the higher temperature than the carbon give rise to carbon dioxide and the carbon give rise to carbon monoxide line. So that zinc oxide is unstable, hence it is quite easy to reduce the zinc oxide into zinc by using coke at a higher temperature around 1673 Kelvin. Here you can see that there is a graph which is plotted against the delta G naught versus temperature, where the zinc oxide, where the zinc which is get oxidized to zinc oxide, is it right? At a particular temperature, you can see that the coke which reacts with oxygen and form a carbon dioxide, but at the delta G value around minus 300, you will see that the carbon reacts with oxygen in forming a carbon monoxide. You can see that these two lines which is coming below when compared to this line, because this is a line for the reduction of where the zinc which is oxidized to the zinc oxide. So these two lines which is formed below in this graph, so that we can use a carbon monoxide as well as the carbon as a reducing agent for the zinc. How do you decide this? Because from the diagram itself it is confirmed that the zinc which is oxidized to zinc oxide which is present just above in this line, whereas a coke as well as a carbon monoxide which is found to be below in this graph. So from that we can easily tell that the coke as well as the carbon monoxide, these two element which is can be easily used as a reducing agent to reduce the zinc at a higher temperature around 1673 Kelvin. So around these two temperature, you can use this element as a reducing agent for the zinc. Now let us understand how they will do the extraction of the zinc from the zinc oxide. The reduction of the zinc oxide is done by using a coke. The oxide is formed into a briquettes with the coke and the clay with the effective heating. This heating will be done around 1673 Kelvin and zinc oxide will be get reduced to zinc. Here directly they have given the procedure how they will do the concentration. They have not mentioned the concentration as well as the roasting or the calcination. They have given the direct reduction process where the zinc is reduced by using coke. Okay, so once the zinc is reduced into the zinc oxide is reduced into zinc, you will obtain the metal, where the zinc oxide is reduced by using a coke at 1673 Kelvin, which is get reduced to zinc, and carbon reacts with oxygen and forming carbon monoxide. So the metal is distilled off and collected by rapid chilling. Why it is distilled off? Because the zinc which is found to be have a lower boiling point, hence it will be distilled off and later it will be chilled later. This is how the extraction of the zinc, which is also done by using coke at a higher temperature around 1673 Kelvin by using coke as a reducing agent to reduce the zinc oxide into zinc. Hope you all understood with this technique. In the next class, again we are going to understand what is electrometallurgy and hydrometallurgy. Under that, how they will do the extraction by using electrotechnique and also by using hydrotechnique. Let us understand in the next session. Till that, take care and we will meet you in the next session. Thank you.